Alright, so I got a great autumn recipe, one of my favorite fall chicken recipes. It's crispy maple cider chicken. I'm going to show you how to spatchcock the chicken and then how to make the sauce, and then I'll show you the finished dish. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to spatchcock a chicken, and the reason we do this is because it cooks much quicker in the oven than if I roast it whole. If I roast it whole, it takes close to an hour, sometimes more, depending on the size of the bird. If I spatchcock it, I can do that in a half an hour or so. Depending on the size of the bird, and you get a nice crispy skin. So the way to spatchcock a chicken, you can either use your knife or just a heavy pair of kitchen scissors. So I've got the legs towards me, breast up. I'm going to just turn that over so it's breast down, legs towards me. So this is the backbone. You can see where the neck comes out in the tail. So that's a nice straight line. We're just going to take our scissors and cut right alongside of that. And it may be tough at certain areas. You know, if you have good scissors, which mine are not, I may have to switch to my knife, which is fine. But you just basically just cut along the side of that backbone. You can hear it. So that's with the scissors, and you just cut it all the way up. If you're using a knife, kind of same thing. Just turn it here, and I'll use my knife. I'm just going to turn it around. And I'm just going to cut along here, and I'll have to be a little bit more aggressive with that if I just turn it over. And I just get my knife right in there. Obviously be careful. You don't want any fingers into their chicken. Alright, so as you can see, the knife is a little bit more work, not quite as neat, not quite as clean. But then we've got our backbone. Save that. Soup stock, see other videos. So then we're just going to rinse the inside of this chicken out. We just want to make sure we kind of clean it up a little bit. And then all you're going to do for your chicken is just going to kind of spread it apart here. Flatten it out like this, and we're going to put that in our pan. We're going to go breast side down so we get a nice crispy skin, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Alright, so after we spatchcock our chicken, we're going to get ready to cook it. And this is just super easy. So our oven's preheated to 500 degrees, so kind of full blast on your oven. Make sure it's fully preheated, and for some ovens that can take up to 20 minutes to preheat. I've got a large non-stick pan. It doesn't have to be a non-stick, but a large pan. I've got mine over about a medium heat. I got a pretty high output burner, so you might want to go kind of medium high to high heat. Nice warm pan, just let it kind of heat up. And then we're just going to season our chicken with some salt. And this is on the skin side. I just got some sea salt here. We're going to season it too at the end, so don't worry. A little pepper, as much as you want. I like a good amount of pepper. And I always give it a little love, give it a little pat. I've got some chicken schmaltz. The rendered chicken fat. If you don't know what that is or don't know how to make it, see one of my other videos called schmaltz, which will show you how to make that. Super easy, great way to use up kind of the fat that you trim off your chicken. So we're just going to let that melt in our pan, and then we're going to pop our chicken in here skin side down. Okay. So we'll take our chicken that's already seasoned just on one side, because I'll season the other side when it gets in the pan. I'm just going to grab it by the legs, turn it over, and I place it in away from me, so it doesn't splash back. Kind of press down on it. Skin side down. Should sizzle, should not scream at you. Make sure it just sizzles. If it screams too loud, the pan's too hot, so you can turn that down. Once that gets in there, I'm going to season the other side with my salt and pepper. It's all tasty. Pepper. And then all we're going to do right now is pop this into a preheated 500 degree oven. Right? In the oven that goes, that's going to go for 10 minutes at 500 degrees. After 10 minutes we're going to flip it. Alright, so it's been 10 minutes since we put our chicken in. We're going to pull it out and flip it over. It should be, hopefully, nice and golden on the other side. And always remember, the handle's always hot. So we're just going to get under this with your tongs and give it a flip. And see we got a nice golden skin, which is just going to get even better as we cook it. Now we're going to pop the chicken back in until it's done cooking. Depending on the size of your chicken, that's going to take anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. So I always set my timer at 20, and then I'm going to check the temperature of the thigh. But remember, because it's spatchcocked, it's going to cook a lot quicker. So remember that. Pop that back in your 500 degree oven. Get our timer going. And now we're going to make the sauce. Alright, so now we're going to make the maple cider sauce, and this is to me what really kind of brings this whole dish together as an autumn dish. It's that sweetness of the maple syrup, the tanginess of the apple cider vinegar, and all those fall flavors. So for our ingredients here, we've got extra virgin olive oil. You certainly could use butter if you wanted to. We've got 1/3 of a cup of apple cider vinegar. We've got 1/3 of a cup of pure maple syrup. Use the real stuff. We've got 1/4 cup of chopped shallots. You could also use red onions, but make sure you chop them fine. Salt, nutmeg, and pepper. So we've got our pan kind of heating up here over kind of a medium heat. We're just going to add a little oil, and you can check the recipe. I'm just kind of guessing, I don't know, teaspoon and a half, tablespoon, in a preheated pan, and then we're just going to add our shallots. So all we want to do is start to saute these till they turn translucent. So again, there's a nice sizzle, but it's not screaming at me. You'll know what screaming means if it does it. So we're just going to let that kind of cook a little bit. I'm going to season this as I go. Just a little bit of salt. Hey now. And then a little bit of pepper. Alright, we'll season it a little bit more as we go. Alright, so just till these get translucent. If you have a hood vent, turn it on, because we're going to add some vinegar, which can kind of fill your house up, especially if you're in a small apartment. So these will take about 2 to 3 minutes, depending on how warm your oven burner is. Like I said, mine's a pretty high output burner, so these are pretty much ready to go. They're going to cook a little bit longer as well. So we're just going to add our cider vinegar, 1/3 of a cup. And that'll boil up, and we want to bring it to a little bit of a boil. While that's coming to a boil, we're going to add a little bit more pepper. I like it to be nice and peppery. I think it really makes the dish. Pinch more salt. And then nutmeg. I use fresh grated nutmeg. If you have the ground kind already, go ahead. As far as quantities, check the recipe. I'm not even sure, but I'm going to add a few grinds. Good. So we got our nutmeg. Grate that in there. And now this is simmering, so we got our vinegar in there. Now we're just going to add our maple syrup. So this is, pure, the real deal. And this is also 1/3 of a cup. So it's equal parts vinegar to maple syrup. And I really want to get all that in there because you don't want to waste any of that delicious stuff. Now once that gets in there, we're just going to give it a little stir. We're just going to let this simmer just for a few minutes, just to reduce slightly. So, maybe 2 to 3 minutes. So it'll come back to a simmer. Don't let it boil completely. You can kind of see it's just starting to bubble around the edges. And we're just going to let that go for about 2 to 3 minutes. And this is going to end up being kind of a thick, just absolutely delicious sauce. And you can even taste it now, but it's hot, so be careful. Man, that is so good. And so that's the sauce. Alright, so this chicken's done. It's been in for about took about 22 minutes. And I just stick a thermometer in the thick part of the thigh and the breast. Just make sure you're about 160, 165 on the thigh. And you can be about 145, 150 here. But if this is done, this will for sure be done. So we're just going to pull this out of the pan. You can see how just gorgeous, and it just falls apart, which is just fine because we're going to serve that up just like that. Don't throw that out. So we've got that out, and we're just going to plate this up. On a plate, obviously. And to trim this, I'm just going to cut right down the middle of this breast, just like this. And that should pretty much come right off. We may have to do a little more trimming. Let me get this leg off too. I'm going to try to keep that skin intact because that's so delicious. Set that there. Just cut down along the bone. We'll have our breast here. Perfect. There we go. Good. So we're just going to lay that on a plate. And obviously it's a hungry person, probably for me. And we're just going to serve that with the sauce, which we'll drizzle over the top. So we've got our sauce. It's kind of reduced. You can see it's a little bit thick. I'm just going to take a little bit of that. And you don't need a whole lot because this is pretty intense flavor. Just going to drizzle that right over the top of that chicken. Alright. To serve that, we're just going to serve it with a basic mixed salad. Just some mixed greens, a little vinaigrette. Make a nice big one there, nice pile. And there we go. Your crispy maple cider chicken.